It was the middle of a scorching summer heatwave when things took a turn no one saw coming. Picture this: my grandmother, 78 years old, sitting in her living room with the temperature climbing past 90 degrees. She lives in a quiet neighborhood, the kind where you'd expect everyone to look out for each other. But that day, someone decided to do the opposite. That someone was the HOA president. Let's just call her Karen. You know the type. Clipboard in hand, always watching, always complaining. But what she did this time, it went way beyond petty rules and long complaints. Karen had an issue with the noise from my grandma's air conditioning unit. So instead of knocking on the door or leaving a note, she took it upon herself to shut it off completely. No warning, no permission. Just switched it off like it was her own property. And with the heat rising inside, it didn't take long for things to get dangerous. This wasn't just about comfort anymore. This was about safety, especially for someone elderly. But here's the twist. What Karen didn't expect was the security camera. And what happened next? Let's just say she got a visit from someone with a badge. Stick around, because the full story is way more shocking than you think. So here's a bit more about what led up to all this. My grandma's lived in that house for over 20 years. She's the kind of neighbor who waves at everyone, bakes cookies for the block, and keeps to herself. Her AC unit, yeah, it hums a little, like most older ones do, but it's nothing outrageous. Still, Karen, the HOA president, had been complaining about it for weeks. She'd already sent passive-aggressive notes, even took pictures from across the street. Super weird behavior. We figured she was just being her usual over-the-top self and tried to ignore it. But things escalated. Karen didn't just file a complaint. She literally came onto the property one afternoon while my grandma was napping and turned the AC off at the breaker. Just like that. It was over 95 degrees that day, and with no airflow inside, the house turned into an oven. My grandma has a hot condition. She depends on that cool air not just for comfort, but for her health. By the time she woke up, she was dizzy and struggling to breathe. Now here's where it gets even more unsettling. This wasn't just a random act. Karen had been talking to other board members, trying to get permission to take matters into her own hands. But what she didn't know was we'd already started recording. The security camera we installed was meant for peace of mind, not to catch something like this. But when we checked the footage, there she was, Karen, walking right up to the side of the house in broad daylight, glancing around like she knew she wasn't supposed to be there. Then she opened the panel and flipped the switch. No hesitation. Just did it like it was her right. That's when everything became real. This wasn't just annoying HOA drama anymore. This was personal and honestly dangerous. Meanwhile, we found out from a neighbor that Karen had been complaining to the board about noise pollution and claiming my grandma's AC unit was a disturbance to the community. But here's the twist. No one else on the block had a problem with it. In fact, several neighbors said they didn't even notice the sound. Some of them were actually worried about Karen. One guy said she'd been patrolling the street late at night, flashlight in hand, taking pictures of houses. Like, what? And then there was the board meeting. Karen tried to make it sound like she had permission to act because she brought it up at a previous meeting. But the board had never voted on anything. She twisted her words, hoping no one would fact-check. What she didn't know was that we weren't the only ones watching her anymore. As the days passed, things started getting weirder. Karen must have sensed we were onto her, because she started acting even more bold. She came by my grandma's house again, this time standing at the edge of the driveway, phone in hand, pretending to take notes. My uncle, who had come to stay after the AC incident, stepped outside and politely asked her to leave. She didn't say a word, just gave a fake smile and walked off slowly, still typing on her phone like she was collecting evidence. But what really set everything off was what happened the next evening. My grandma began feeling lightheaded again, even though we had just had the AC repaired. I went to check the unit, and it was off. Not broken, switched off, again. That's when we realized Karen had done it a second time. We checked the footage and caught her sneaking up behind the hedges, ducking down, and shutting off the breaker just before sunset. This wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. We called the board, we called the police, and the tension exploded. Neighbors were talking, people were angry. Some even showed up with printed screenshots from their own cameras showing Karen creeping through side yards. It felt like the whole neighborhood was turning into a courtroom, and Karen, she was still pretending she'd done nothing wrong. But that act, it was about to fall apart. Just when we thought things couldn't get any more intense, a second twist flipped everything on its head. One of the neighbors, Mr. Patterson, who lives 2 doors down, came forward with something we never expected. He had been reviewing his own security footage after hearing all the talk on the block, and what he found. Karen hadn't just been messing with our AC unit. She'd been sneaking onto multiple properties late at night, fiddling with garden lights, water timers, even opening mailboxes. It was like some bizarre neighborhood power trip. And suddenly, we weren't the only ones with a serious complaint. Word spread fast. Within a couple of days, 3 other households reported missing or tampered with items. A small backyard fountain unplugged. A smart sprinkler system manually overridden. One family even found their back gate wide open after they'd locked it the night before. It became clear this wasn't just about a noisy air conditioner. Karen had been crossing boundaries for weeks, maybe longer. That's when the HOA board finally decided to hold an emergency meeting. But guess who showed up trying to control the entire conversation? Karen, acting like she was the victim of some neighborhood witch hunt. She even tried to twist it into a harassment claim, saying people were stalking her. But the thing is, the evidence was piling up, and law enforcement had just gotten involved. The night of the emergency HOA meeting, the room was packed. Neighbors who'd never shown up before were now sitting front row, arms crossed, waiting to hear what would finally be done. Karen walked in late, still wearing her usual smug expression, acting like nothing was out of the ordinary. But this time, she didn't run the show. One of the board members stood up, cleared his throat, and announced that local authorities were now investigating multiple complaints, including criminal trespassing and tampering with private property. The room went silent. Then came the big moment, the footage. One of the neighbors had compiled clips from different home security cameras. Everything from Karen turning off my grandma's AC to her sneaking behind houses, crouching near fuse boxes, even pulling open a gate and slipping into someone's backyard. The board played it all. Karen's face dropped. She tried to interrupt, but no one was listening anymore. The pattern was undeniable. That same night, police showed up at Karen's house with questions. She wasn't arrested on the spot, but she was issued a formal citation and ordered to stay off all properties she didn't own, including common HOA spaces, while the case was under review. But here's the twist. The very next morning, her house had a big "For Sale" sign out front. No warning, no goodbye, just gone. But some say they still catch her car circling the block, watching. After Karen's sudden move, the neighborhood slowly started to feel normal again. The board tightened up HOA policies, adding clear boundaries about property access and resident privacy. My grandma's AC unit, still humming just fine, and now protected by a locked cover on the breaker box. A few neighbors even pitched in to help upgrade her system, just to make sure she was safe and comfortable during the hotter months. The whole ordeal brought people closer. What started as a stressful, even dangerous situation turned into something that reminded us why community matters. As for Karen, no one knows exactly where she went. Rumors say she moved to another HOA neighborhood a few towns over. Let's hope they're more prepared than we were. The security footage and reports were turned over to authorities, and last we heard, her case was still under review. But at least now, the street feels calm again. No more strange patrols, no more silent power cuts, no more paranoia. It's wild how one person's control issues can spiral into something that threatens safety. The lesson: never underestimate the power of a small action, whether it's shutting off an AC or turning on a camera. Because in the end, the truth always comes to light.